Here's something I want every buyer to remember. Do not make a long-term decision based on a short-term headline. A home is not a stock trade. It's not a reaction to whatever scary banner is flashing across your phone today. A home is where your life happens. It's where mornings begin. It's where your family grows. It's where routines get built, and quite frankly, it's where memories get made. So when the news cycle gets loud, take a breath. Because a short-term news panic should never get to write the next decade of your family's story. Headlines, well, they're built for urgency. Homes, they're built for longevity. Oil prices can jump in a day, stock markets can swing in a week, and geopolitical conflict can dominate the conversation for a month. But most people do not buy a home for the next month. They buy for the next chapter, for a better school fit, a shorter commute, a home office, a bigger kitchen, a yard for the dog, space for the kids, space for parents, space for the life they're actually building. That is the lens a smart buyer uses. Not this week, more for the next 10 years. That's why history matters. Over the last 40 years, this country has lived through the 1987 crash, Y2K, the Gulf War, the dot-com bust, 9/11, the Great Recession of 2007 through 2012, and COVID. In the moment, every one of those felt enormous. And they were enormous. But the question for a home buyer is different. The question is not, how loud is the headline today? But rather, the question is, will this home still make sense for my family 3, 5, and 10 plus years from now? That's the difference between reacting and deciding. Perspective beats panic. Now, before we look at specific timeframes, if you're finding this content helpful, we would be so grateful for you to smash that like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment below about your thoughts on this content, because that's how we can improve and serve you with even better guidance. Now, let's take a look at 1987. Take 1999. Take 2008. Those were intense moments. People were nervous, confidence shaken. The future was uncertain. But when you zoom out, national home values were still higher 10 years later. Now, that does not mean that every neighborhood behaved the same way. They didn't. Real estate is always local. But nationally, the long view beat the short-term fear. And that's the point. Headlines create emotional urgency. Time, however, creates clarity. The same story in the early 2000s happened with the dot-com bust. It shook confidence. Then 9/11 changed the country overnight. Those were painful moments, real moments. But when you look through the 10-year ownership lens, national home values still ended up higher. That does not erase what people felt in those moments. It just reminds us that headlines feel permanent when we're inside them. Most of the time, they're not permanent. They're intense, they're emotional, they're real, but they're not usually the final word on a long-term housing decision. Now, the honest pushback is 2008, and that is fair, because 2008 was real. It was painful. It hurt a lot of people. As a realtor, it hurt me. So I would never insult anyone by pretending otherwise. But even then, the lesson is still about time horizon. Nationally, home prices recovered and they were higher 10 years later. Locally, here in the greater Denver area, the average home value went up 70% in that 10-year period. 70. So the lesson is not that headlines never matter. The lesson is this: panic is a terrible planning strategy. So what should drive the decision? Your life, your budget, your stability, your plans. Can you comfortably afford the payment? Do you have reserves? Do you plan to stay long enough for the move to make sense? Does this home support the life you want over the next decade? Those are the right questions. The wrong question? What did the headlines say this morning? After all, real estate decisions should be made in the time frame of your life, not the time frame of the news cycle. So here's the bottom line. A headline has a half-life. A home has a life inside it. One is designed to grab your attention for a moment. The other is meant to serve your family for years. So please, do not make a long-term decision based on a short-term noise. Make it based on where you're going. And if you want help thinking through your next move, reach out. We're always just a call, a text, and an email away. We'll look at your goals. We'll look at your time frame. We'll look at your comfort level. And we'll look at the life you want to build for your family. And then we'll create a plan together around your future, not this week's headlines. I'm Wade Perry of the Perry Properties Group at eXp. Thanks for watching.